This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Chapter 13, From Stone to Stone. And our symbol is the stone.
Portal stone.
Portal stone.
We don't get that one very often.
No.
It's very often they actually get to use them. There's this one and then the flicker scene.
Yeah, there's a handful of times in the series where portal stones are used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But once gateways become a thing, they're really just not very useful.
Yeah.
Although I wonder if you could take Trollocs through a portal stone.
Somebody does it.
Yeah.
They do?
When?
Yeah.
I thought they just used the ways.
Well, is it that Perrin just suspects?
That's right. I think it's later in like the Two Rivers. He follows them to a band of Trollocs to a portal stone, and they disappear into it. And he knows enough. He's heard descriptions of them, and he figures. And Loial's there with him, I think, and may be able to tell him what's going on.
I don't think I remember that.
Oh, and definitely during the last battle,
they're utilized.
There's a Forsaken. Yeah, they're utilized. They're like popping in and out. He's like coming. They're bringing in groups, and they keep bringing more and more. I'm pretty sure that's Portal Stone, not a gateway.
Yeah.
This is from the Wheel of Time wiki. In Towers of Midnight, a male channeler, possibly acting on Grendal's orders, uses a portal stone to transport Trollocs and Myrddraal to attack the White Cloak army on the Gehenna Road.
Yeah, but there's nothing with Perrin.
I don't know where I was getting that from.
But yeah, I mean, the only four in the wiki are this whole scene, getting in and out, the Shadow Rising one, where they do the flicker scene, and then the Towers of Midnight that you just found, where they were transporting in Trollocs.
It makes sense that Sanderson would bring them back up again, because some people were wondering why they hadn't been utilized again.
It makes sense to use them as an alternative to the ways. What with the Black Wind not being there and stuff.
Right.
True. But they are more constrained because they're only in certain places. And you can't... True. I mean, I know the ways are too.
There's going to be a lot more way gates than portal stones.
Well, the portal stones, they were used before the Age of Legends. So I think that people know way less about how they're used.
Right.
Totally. And more degraded too. Some of these they find like half buried, the symbols on them are all worn off. You're lucky if the portal stone you want to use is at all usable.
Right.
And I remember that it was a male Aes Sedai who had spent a long time studying the portal stones was the one that invented the ways.
Really?
Yeah. It's like they work along similar lines. Like the ways are built in, possibly
influenced
one
by
of the
a study of the portal
worlds,
stones,
or the space in between the portal stone worlds. We don't really know, but
or the way time moves differently in the portal worlds, and the way time and distance move differently. Totally is used in the ways. I think even possibly Lanfear says something about that when she's talking about the Mirror of the Mists, that book.
Yeah.
It is Perrin who detects the channeler using it during the last battle.
Oh, during the last battle.
Yeah. So I think we're just splitting that one scene into two.
Gotcha.
So there's a channeler using a portal stone in the last battle, but Perrin's the one who figures that out.
Yeah.
When Grady detects a male channeler popping in and out.
Gotcha.
I see.
So yeah, it's just those four instances that we really see it used. In and out of this world, traveling to Tomon Head, and then in the last battle.
The light of the rising sun woke Rand, and he wondered if he were dreaming. He sat up slowly, staring. Everything had changed, or almost everything. The sun and the sky were as he expected to see, if pallid and all but cloudless. Loial and Hurin still lay on either side of him, wrapped in their cloaks asleep, and their horses stood hobbled a pace away. But everyone else was gone. Soldiers, horses, his friends, everyone and everything was gone. The hollow itself had changed too, and they were in the middle of it now, no longer on the edge.
So Falren just said that they use a portal stone to get to Ruidian.
Yeah.
About that.
That's one of the times.
So they're not underutilized at all. Yeah, Rand does it, and Moraine is like, that's incredibly dangerous.
Oh, that's right. And Matt flips the coin, and it's this.
They don't know which symbol to pick, so they just pick one.
And both Rand and Matt pick the same one, so like its Tavernus works for both of them, but in different ways. Rand just closes his eyes and puts his hand over the right one, and Matt flips a coin.
That's in the Shadow Rising, right?
Yes.
From Tyr to Ruidian. At Rand's head rose a gray stone cylinder, every bit of 3 spans high and a full pace thick, that's 15 feet, covered with hundreds, perhaps thousands, of deeply incised diagrams and markings in some language he did not recognize. Yeah, 3 span, 5 feet.
High.
Yeah.
And 1
5 feet
across.
is 1 span.
Yeah.
Approximately. So they wake up in this portal world.
Right, and the hollow was totally changed.
I'll read another description here because I feel like this chapter is mostly a description of the portal world. Everything seemed paler than it should be, just like the sun, more subdued, as if seen through mist. Only there was no mist, just 3 of them, and the horses appeared truly solid. But when he touched the stone under him, it felt solid enough. Rand wakes Loial and Hurin, yells at them. "Wake up and tell me I'm dreaming." "Is it morning already?" Loial began, sitting up. Then his mouth fell open, and his big, round eyes grew wider and wider.
Yeah, so they're just waking up in this weird alternate world. It's, again, speaking of Twilight Zone, where everything's a little gray.
Yeah.
The colors are washed out, except for the 3 of them.
A world in between. "I think this is the same stone we went to sleep beside last night," Loial saying. "I think I know what it is now." For once, he sounded miserable about knowing.
Rand worries about being mad. He's like, nope, they're seeing it too.
Yeah.
Can't be mad yet.
Loial describes a fragment of a old text that he read about it.
I noticed, this is one of the things I noticed for the first time, there are actually the 7 colors of the different Ajahs are around the portal stone.
That's
I don't know why, considering how old the portal stones must be, if they existed before the Age of Legends, and even people then didn't know exactly.
So I assume, this world diverges from Randland during the time of Arthur Hawkwing. Is that he fought that battle with the Trollocs, and before then,
lost.
Everything else was the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Or at least similar.
Because the land is the same.
Yeah. And the portal stones really could only be used by those powerful channelers. So it makes sense that the White Tower would be the one who would maintain those areas. And even if they had to build up around the portal where the portal stones already were, it would make sense that they would have, that's their little monument saying, yeah, this is the property of the White Tower. And only we can use this. Clearly, there are some differences in this world. The portal stone wasn't buried. The portal stone was out there and on a dais and surrounded and elevated to be used.
Loial does say that the Aes Sedai did use them in the Age of Legends, some of those who could travel. So I really thought they were before the Age of Legends. I mean, maybe...
Oh, yeah. They were just used during the Age of Legends. They existed before that.
But I thought most of that was lost during the breaking. And so I'm wondering why this one's still intact. Did this world somehow not go through the breaking? But then it seems the geography would be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would assume that, like you said before, this world diverged during Arthur Hawkwing's time. Can't really say for sure, but likely that it diverged, that battle. Arthur Hawkwing lost instead of won against this Trolloc invasion.
So do you think in Randland this dais was around and existed during Arthur Hawkwing's time?
Oh, that's a good point.
Could be.
No, that doesn't really make any... Huh. I mean, that stone could have degraded quite a bit over thousands of years.
Yeah. Well, and time is moving differently in these two worlds. So it's possible that, over the thousands of years that have passed in Randland, it really hasn't been that long in this world.
Another theory I have, I don't know how to explain this, but Hurin smells the group, but they're ahead of where they are, so they start tracking where Fain is going to be.
Yeah. Hurin smells where they will be, not where they have been.
But I'm wondering if the colors have nothing to do with the Aes Sedai, and it could be one of those things where the Aes Sedai pulled those 7 colors because of another reason in the past. Like this whole concept of time is circular. Like maybe they use those colors based on some ideology that...
I like the idea.
I don't know, just throwing it out there.
But I can't think of any other... Those 7 colors don't seem to have any other... Whenever we see them, it's always the Aes Sedai or the Amaryllis Seat. And it's specifically, they formed when they weren't part of Aes Sedai before the White Tower.
It's a new thing.
Right.
They were specifically, it's a new thing. I don't see... And they sort of all formed... There was a bunch of Ajahs that would come and go, and these 7 sort of solidified out of the numerous Ajahs. But I don't see any special significance to that number before the White Tower.
Yeah.
What else could those 7 colors mean besides the White Tower? And this hill with the portal stone in it is in no way related to Arthur Hawkwing's monument. They see that later in a different location.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So this is just a location that's maintained by what I would assume is the White Tower for traveling in this particular timeline. So, I mean, it's possible this timeline diverged a little bit before Arthur Hawkwing's time. It wasn't, but it's been... The main difference was the loss. But what led up to the loss could be something totally different.
Sure.
Maybe he suffered a worse loss against the Aes Sedai and didn't have the forces that he needed when he was fighting the Trollocs. Who knows?
Yeah.
If a woman go left or right, does time's flow divide?
I think they made a movie about that with, was it Sliding Door?
Who's in that?
I don't know if it's she gets on a train and either makes the train or doesn't, and it gives 2 storylines about 2 alternate paths. And whenever I saw a promo for that, I was like, okay, good, you've read the Wheel of Time. Just alternate timeline type stuff. But we've seen that over and over again in sci-fi. The question of if when you make a choice, it splits realities, and one choice happens in one and one choice happens in the other. Are you creating infinite realities simply by making choices over and over and over again? Or are you just navigating down one path, and are all these other paths just other choices you could have made?
Gwyneth Paltrow, by the way.
Yeah.
It's called Sliding Doors. Hurin looks for encouragement that they're not going to live the rest of their days there, and Rand says, I'll do my best. And he tries to channel into the stone. That was one of the things that I wanted to talk about after his description of it, and he notes that it's not Trolloc script, it's some other kind of script that he doesn't know.
Right.
He tries to channel into the stone and tries to picture where he was, and it doesn't work. And then I have, desperately he tried to form the image of the hollow as it had been, with Ingtar and the Lances sleeping by their horses, and so on. He tries, and he does manage to channel.
Mm-hmm.
And then the void shattered into 1,000 razor shards, slicing his mind. Shuddering, he staggered back, wide-eyed. His hands hurt from pressing the stone, and his arms and shoulders quivered with aching. His stomach lurched from the feel of the filth covering him, and his head... ... When the void went, usually, it went like a pricked bubble, just gone, in a twinkling, never like broken glass.
I think he comes close to burning himself out right there.
Do you think so?
I think he loses, we see descriptions of when the female Aes Sedai either lose the power suddenly or are interrupted of channeling, and we see this sort of 1,000 razor shards piercing his mind, and if it had been too bad, he totally could have either killed himself or burned himself out. And he came very, very close to losing the one power permanently there.
He's a fresh channeler, too, so this could be one of the events that forces him. And I'm using forces as in quotes here. For instance, when Egwene is forced by the Shan-Chan, she becomes a lot more powerful afterwards. Yeah, I was just wondering what that was. I like your theory.
Entirely possible. I was wondering if it was Lanfear throwing a shield at him.
I was wondering that too, if Lanfear interfered somehow, but...
Because he could easily kill them by channeling into the portal stone and not knowing what he's doing, or he could send them back and her plan is ruined.
Yeah, he could accidentally bring them to a universe where there's no air or something.
Right.
Yeah, but
or anything could go wrong.
Yeah. But she wants him to use the portal stone. That's the whole point of this excursion, is to force him to use the power. He has to use the power to get himself back. So I don't think she would interfere with him, even if,
What is her long-term strategy here? Like, why?
She wants him to have power. She's testing
She's
him.
trying to, train him.
Yeah.
Put him in a situation where he has to. That makes sense.
I like your idea of forcing him a little bit, that she that maybe not that this forces him, but just by putting him in these dangerous situations, she sort of wants to see what he'll do. And she's not really in it. She knows how to use the portal stones. She can kill the Grolm. She's totally calm the whole time. She's not in any danger.
Yeah.
But
it's probably good to point out that nobody's really in any danger, because Lanfear is not going to let him die.
No.
I think she would.
You think so?
You think so?
I don't think she's totally convinced he's...
I always kind of see her as still sort of in love with him.
Yeah,
she sees this as her big opportunity to get Lews Therin back.
But she's in love with his power, and if he can't protect himself from some Grolm, she's not interested.
Fair enough. But he can, and he does it with 2 sticks and a string.
I know, and that impresses her.
Yeah,
that's
I think she's impressed.
Yeah, that's why she falls for him even more.
That's reasonable. I always thought that she was just obsessed with his soul. She knows it's him reborn. Yeah, he's a hay hair in this iteration, but I don't think if he... I think she just... There's no way he's going to be useless forever. He has too much potential. So I think that... I'm not sure if it's a test, to see how tough he is. I think she knows he's tough.
But she's such a glory hound. She wants, she's trying to get Matt to seek glory in the White Tower. Yeah. She's trying to get Rand to seek glory. I think that she loves Lews Therin first and foremost as a path to power. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why when he quote unquote betrays her, she,
flips.
She sees that as a betrayal. She loves him totally in her own sick and twisted way.
Yeah.
She loves him, but she loves power more.
And he represents power.
Right.
As just who he is. Even when he's reborn next, if he's not the dragon, he's still one of the most powerful male channelers ever. And
right. And Ta'Veren.
Yeah.
So I'm not... Her motivations are never 100% clear. She is clearly obsessed with Rand. She's clearly obsessed with power.
Her motivations are always multifaceted.
It might be rational on some level, but it's, I'm sure, highly irrational on another. In the same way that Demandred, a lot of the Forsaken operate in highly, highly irrational ways, based on emotion rather than logic.
Yeah.
And revenge or jealousy, or a lot of those emotions are what drive the things they do and their betrayal to the dark side.
And then Rand says he's going to try again until he realizes that Hurin can still smell the Dark Friends or Fain.
Yeah, and then he says, well, let's see if they're here, let's follow them.
Yeah.
What he doesn't realize is they're not there. Because he's sensing, right, Hurin's sensing the Dark Friends in the overworld, the true world. Oh, there was one little quote here with Hurin where Rand gives in to him and says, there'll be no bowing. And he says, I'm not, and he's going to say I'm not a lord, but he doesn't want to take that away from Hurin. And so for the first time he says, no bowing, and doesn't actually say I'm not a lord. And Hurin catches that and is all pleased and happy.
Yeah.
That Rand's finally admitted he's a lord.
That's an excellent, but I was going to say what's confusing is that if this is alternate world, Fain is not in this world, so how can Hurin be smelling him in this other world on the New World's timeline?
That is a great question.
Yeah.
That I could really only speculate.
It's because these worlds are a twisted reflection of the true world. And so what we're smelling is a reflection of the violence that Fain has done, even though it's not occurring in this world.
That's a good point. I was reading about portal stones before, and I saw something that Robert Jordan said was quoted. I don't think I have the tab open anymore, but he said there are like alternate worlds, like where the Tower of Genji brings you, where the Elfin and Elfin live. You can't go there using the portal stones. You can't go to the Elfin's universe.
Because they're real places.
And then there are the worlds that are connected to Randland through the portal stones, and those are mirror worlds. Those are could-haves or would-haves.
But they're not real.
But they're just reflections of the current world.
Right.
With some things changed.
So that could maybe give us a little bit of an answer where, like, all the portal stone worlds, or the mirror worlds, he said, are connected to Randland. Whereas if they were to travel to, like, through the Tower of Genji, they would not be able to. That's a totally different place.
Mm-hmm. I also wanted to talk a little bit about this sort of nausea, vision twisting, inducing thing they see out of the corner of their eyes.
Yeah, I don't know
That's
what that's
weird.
supposed to mean.
That sounds to me like when I'm playing a 3D game and I turn up the point of view to like 180 degrees, like Quake Pro style vision,
Yeah.
where like as you're moving forward, you know, you sort of expect things to stay proportional. But if you stretch your view out as you're moving forward, the items actually stretch in your view, and it sort of makes them look odd on the sides and gives you a little bit of nausea. And so this, to me, you know, because, again, distance is so weird, distance and time are weird in this parallel world, I often wonder if maybe the fact that they're moving so fast means the world is sort of distorting on the edges like they would when you have a weird POV in a video game. And that's what's causing the nausea.
That makes
And that
sense.
has everything to do with the weird distorted space and time that they're traveling through.
Yeah, and we know that time's sped up.
Right, so I guess that they are on their normal Randland time. But their environment is moving at a different timeline.
And then I just have a bit here where Loial says, like, how are you going to find another stone? And even if you can, you can't channel. So how are you planning on using it? Like, how are we ever going to get back? And Rand kind of dodges really answering.
He's like, well, we got here, so...
It kind of comes up with some... And then I just kind of have the last paragraph. I don't know if there's any more you guys want to get into on this one.
I don't really have a lot to say.
Just the other thing that Rand's rationale was that since the Dark Friends are here, they got here, which he's wrong about, but since they got here, they must know a way to get back. So that's why he says, let's follow them.
Yeah.
Because if they're here, they have to know how to get back.
I suppose there's nothing to do for it. Which way, Hurin? South, Lord Rand. The sniffer kept his eyes on the ground. South, then. There has to be a way back besides using the power. Rand healed Red's flanks. He tried to make his voice lighthearted, as if he saw no difficulty at all in what they were about. What was it Ingtar said? 3 or 4 days to the monument of Arthur Hawkwing. I wonder if that exists here too, the way the stones do. If this is a world that could be, maybe it's still standing. Wouldn't that be something to see, Loial? They rode south.
I have one more thing to say.
Sure.
And before we started, I had somehow an idea in my head that the burn patches on the ground were related to the burn patches on Ishmael's face. And I could have sworn that there was a scene where Rand sees the burn patches on the ground and it becomes Ishmael's face.
When you describe that, I feel like I recollect that too from somewhere, but I can't tell if it's...
And
I'm just open to suggestion.
And so I've asked the Chosen, and they say I'm crazy. And so I'm putting it out there. Guys, what am I thinking of? Help me out here.
Yeah,
please.
is there anyone listening now that knows anything about that? The text box is silent. Nobody's typing.
No. Well, I'm insane. I'm absolutely insane. So I think it happened in a dream. I think it happened in the Great Hunt. I think it happened in the Portal World. But I swear I've read those chapters now 3 or 4 times looking for that scene, and I cannot find it. So that's all. I just wanted to put out a call for help. Try and prove me crazy or not crazy. I'd appreciate it.
My last comment on this chapter would be that Rand settles into leadership quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is here, like Seth pointed out, the first time he accepts being called a lord.
Yeah, and he's definitely sort of been leading Loial around for a while.
But I think
Yeah.
it's more than just accepting Hurin calling him my lord. It comes down to he thinks this is what Lan is talking about, duty being heavier than a mountain, and it's my responsibility, and I'm going to show them the confidence that they need.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that that's a brilliant contrast to Perrin, who his problem, and this is like Aram's downfall, is Perrin, it's a sign of respect for the people you're leading to show them that confidence, even if you are not sure what to do. But Perrin is like, I don't know what to do, and I'm not going to do anything about it.
He doesn't want to pick up that mountain.
Right. And I guess I didn't really appreciate how quickly Rand is able to accept that. And it takes Perrin
Yeah,
like
I can appreciate that.
12 books.
No, he always does his duty. Rand does up front. It takes him a while to accept that he's the Dragon Reborn. He still thinks that he's being set up as a false dragon. He doesn't think he's the real dragon yet.
Right.
Which is why he goes on a quest in the next book to get Kalendor.
Yeah.
Because to him, that's the only way to prove that he is the Dragon Reborn. Because only the dragon can touch the sword that is not a sword.
I feel like Perrin is more driven by requirement. Like, he gets into these situations where he feels that he has to act. And that's really why he gets into the things he gets into. And Matt is always kind of trying to slither his way out of responsibility, but just manages to walk right back into it.
Matt always says
More
he's trying to
accidental.
slither out of responsibility, and then he walks into it face first and takes on and then storms the Stone of Tyr to rescue a few of his friends.
Matt might be the best at embracing it.
I feel that, well, each of their Taveran natures also is different.
Yes.
And I think their Taveran natures really kind of reflect their personality. So they change the world around them in a way that's kind of reflective of their personality.
Absolutely.
Whereas, Rand's Taveranness is very much Rand-like, and Perrin's, and Matt's. So
Not to bash on Perrin.
Matt is kind of a slithery character, and he has that particular chance warping that's really like, it's also a part of Perrin and Rand's Taveran nature, but for Matt, the chance warping is really a huge part. The gambler persona. I feel like when he'll be trying to leave and then turn around and walk right into the situation he's supposed to be in.
And Perrin is so focused that he is blinded.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
And he just gets so obsessed with one particular bit of information.
And I do love Perrin a lot. I love his arc, even if it takes a while. But that is like his biggest downfall.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't want to accept responsibility. It's why he doesn't step into the world of dreams. It's why he doesn't take leadership over the Two Rivers. It's why he doesn't, he just doesn't want to be in charge and have the power. He wants to just go back to a simple life of being a blacksmith. And it's only when he accepts that he's not going to get that.
Yeah, I like the way Enigma put it here. Perrin doesn't want to lead, Rand doesn't want to channel, and Matt doesn't want to deal with the real world. But they all manage to do a ton of that.
They all have to do a ton of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Accidental or otherwise. They don't have a choice because of their Taveran nature.
Yep.
They just think they do.
Well, a lot of them. By the end, Matt's like, I don't have a fucking choice.
Yeah.
I don't have a bloody
right. By
choice.
the end, Matt finally accepts, like, well, I guess I'm running the last battle.
Yeah.
All right. Get out of the way.
I guess I'm marrying the Tuon,
Yeah.
Because that's his whole courtship of Tuon is him being like,
trying to back out of it.
no, it's because he realized he wants the upper hand. He's like, crap, I'm going to marry this girl. I better get the upper hand. And I mean, he's terrible at it. He's absolutely terrible at wooing her. But everything he does is to try and like get her to fall in love with him so he has some power in the relationship.
Absolutely. I forget the exact phrasing. It's so great. They're like riding in the moonlight and Matt is like, I need to stare at her to make sure that she doesn't get lost in this dark forest. It's definitely not because she looks so beautiful in the moonlight. It's like, really, Matt?
Oh, Matt. I can't wait until we get to post healing Matt.
Oh, man. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Matt is a little bit of a dud in the first few books.
I mean, he's a... Yeah, I mean, once he gets the dagger, he's sort of just dominated by the dagger personality.
Yeah, until
then,
it's removed.
Yeah. Which, in a lot of ways, it gives Jordan room to develop the characters individually. Obviously he's focusing on Rand in the first 2 books.
Yes.
And then, because the third one, he definitely doesn't focus on Rand, because Rand's barely in it. And then, really, I would say the third book is Perrin's book. Book 1 and 2 are Rand, book 3 is Perrin. Book 4, I would almost give... Well, book 3 is a lot of Matt, too.
Matt is on the cover of book 4. The copy I have, but it's hard to say because Rand becomes the Khar Arkarn, which is huge.
Right.
I think, book 4 is my personal favorite, but every single character has huge moments in that book, so it's kind of hard to say. Matt and Nynaeve are my 2 favorites too.
Yeah.
They're...
I don't know what it is really. Probably, I always say about Nynaeve that I feel like she's one of the most, she feels real to me, like the contradictions in her personality and her temper, it just makes her seem like a real person, All her flaws are right out there.
Yes.
I mean, she's also a badass, powerful character who blows stuff up eventually, but, it takes a while. There's a long journey in there.
Matt and Nynaeve are... 2 of the most unreliable narrators.
Yes. Yes.
Which is partly, I think, why
I
enjoy them a lot. But, I mean, Matt, he's so lovable, so there's that.
I can't pick a favorite. It's like, which one are your favorite kids? Like, I love them all for very, very different reasons.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that I love them for different reasons is why I love them. Mm-hmm. And why they're characters to me.
I do always say, though, out of the lot of the main characters, Rand is one of my least favorites.
Yeah, he never ends up on my favorites list.
Yeah.
And I definitely remember in my first read through, I started getting really annoyed with when he's going mad. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's like all this weird internal dialogue and he makes bad decisions and I just remember not liking him as a person. Like he's, I guess, Darth Rand,
He falls into the everyman character, that character that is sort of your introduction to the story, and he deliberately doesn't have that. He's very passive. He lets things happen to him so that you as a reader are allowed to fall into his storyline and picture yourself there. That's his whole point in these first 2 books. And then
that makes sense because I always feel like point. This sounds really stupid, but Rand doesn't feel like a character to me. I'm like, he's the dragon. He's Rand. I don't know. I think that's kind of like what you articulated.
He is, as many main characters in stories are, an empty vessel for you to fill with yourself.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's why, like when I watch Buffy, I think Buffy's the least interesting of the characters. When I watch, it's the side characters who really get the interesting stories.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. I've never thought about that before. But I think I probably love Matt and Nynaeve so much because they have so much personality that's like really kind of explosive and laid out to bear from the very beginning,
Yeah.
That's really in your face, and it makes them entertaining to read, I think.
And I always love Perrin, not because he's perfect, but because I just identify with him.
Sure.
I feel the slow of thought, slow to speak. Like I felt that way as a kid, like being obsessed with something so much that you ignore other things around you. Loving dogs. I always thought, being a wolf brother would be awesome. Like, there's just so many things about Perrin. Being a blacksmith, I love, pottery was one of my hobbies. I love to make things. I love to make podcasts. I love to make, like he and my personality line up well enough that I see myself in, at least as a kid, very much saw myself as Perrin in the story. And so he quickly became one of my favorites simply because I identified so closely with him.
Yeah.
But as a character, I'm not sure he is my favorite. But then again, like I said, I have trouble. I love Matt because he's a rogue. I love Perrin because I identify with him. I love Rand because he's a badass and he suffers and goes through the hero's arc. Mm-hmm. I love Lan because who doesn't love Lan?
How can you not?
Yeah. I love Moraine because, my God, when she died, I wanted her back more than anything else. Mm-hmm. I love Nynaeve for all the reasons that we've talked about a million times. I love Egwene for her just relentless inability to not stop and to have motivation. I love Elaine because, frankly, I think she's funny and overcomes just stupid, crazy circumstances and genuinely cares for people and cares about other people around her in a way that she has a huge heart. She really, is this queen raised to be good to the people.
I'm nodding.
Min, I love Min because she's really just the stable relationship with Rand, and she is one of the few characters that has her feet on the ground the entire series and is really looking around being like, this shit's ridiculous.
She's my favorite of the wives. If I had to pick one of those people to date, I would definitely pick Min. Way she beats the pants off the other two. Just as far as a person I could live with, I think.
Yeah.
Tell me why you love
Avienda I could live with. She's practical, right? She's not gonna go vegan. You're not gonna worry about she's not gonna scream at a spider and come running in and ask you to kill it.
It's true.
She is just I would date her in a heartbeat.
Maybe I'm a little intimidated by Avienda.
Oh yeah, all of them. But yeah, I think she is, and she'll tell she's telling you the truth.
It's true.
She's never gonna lie. She's never gonna
not gonna mince words
or yeah. And she's pretty handy with a knife.
I like it when Matt at the end of book 7, Matt tells Lan and Brigitte to take care of all the women, and Avienda's like, I will take care of them, and Matt's like, yeah, okay, sure.
yeah, you're one of the ones I want them to take care of.
But really, Avienda doesn't need... I don't think any of them need, quote, taking care of, but...
No, but I think there's a fine... Over and over again, it's shown they don't need to be taken care of, but they need friends and allies.
Yes, absolutely.
They cannot work alone. Whenever they go off half-cocked on their own, bad stuff happens.
Egwene has been kidnapped so many times. I think she's been kidnapped the most, and then Elaine and Nynaeve second. So, yeah.
I don't know where it's from, but I think it's one of the mockery summaries that was basically like, oh, look, another trap getting into. Let's go for it. I don't remember the exact language, but it was really funny. Just the girls fall into a trap again. Or what's the Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
The gang gets kidnapped.
Yeah.
This is kind of interesting. Prince of Ravens said they're rereading The New Spring and just noticed there's a kind of parallel between Moraine and Swan and Elaine and Egwene and their White Tower experience. I never really noticed that before.
Well, you've kind of got the...
Moraine and Elaine are both sort of...
royalty. And then you've got the small town Amerlins.
Yeah, the small town Amerlins. That's a good way to put it.
Both the most powerful people in the tower. Nynaeve accepting, but at the time, and they're novices.
But I do think that one of the reasons why the women are written as individuals is because I think Harriet is as much of an author of these books as Robert Jordan is.
I think that's true.
I wonder how much so sometimes.
Yeah. I'm sure he does the writing, but an involved editor is as much responsible for the book as the author is, especially when you're married to that person.
Oh, yeah.
And she was married to him before he started the book.
I just would like to know, like, how much was her, especially the female characters.
But that's one of the reasons why I sort of have some hope for the TV series, because I think one of the authors is still intimately involved.
Yeah.
And I think that author is Harriet, not Brandon Sanderson.
Well, yeah, Sanderson doesn't really want anything to do with it. He's got his own thing going on. Stuff. But he had said that during the editing process, he would write like an Avienda chapter and send it to Harriet, and she'd say, you just wrote the perfect Elaine. This is Elaine. It's not Avienda. And so he would like go back and change the voice of the characters. So, she knows the characters as well as Jordan did, or more.
And like I said, I think especially the female characters, she may know better. In the same way that I think Kate Redding and Michael Kramer sort of divvy up the female-male work, I can see that it's entirely possible that Harriet might have some more input into the female perspectives, and Jordan may have had more input into the males.
If I was writing a novel with lots of female characters and my wife was my editor, I would definitely be asking advice all the time.
Right.
If I'm ever unsure about anything in life in general, I just bounce questions off my friends, see what they say, and then I take their collective answers and make my decision based on that. That's how I just handle that.
And I do think our best conversations come when we both write up a note and like we're going along and I'm like, yep, I'm nodding. No, I don't agree with that. You're like, really?
Yeah.
And like, no. And then we have a debate about like, why don't we agree with each other? And I think that's the best content.
I feel like that's what actually makes it interesting. Yeah. Whereas if we had already decided we agreed on one thing beforehand, it would be more like a lecture than a conversation.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, everyone listening has read the series at least once and is enough of a fan to come back and listen. So most of the listeners know generally what's happening. I like the theories. They're well justified.
Yeah. And we like to put what happened in there just because that helps everybody follow along. And
right.
Give us context for what we're talking about. But I'm in it for the theories. Mm-hmm. And a little bit of just like, we don't really know what happened here, so let's, where what happened isn't totally obvious, or what happened isn't obvious until 3 books later.
Come up with Watt Spoilers canon. Which Nynaeve shot first. I'm sticking with it, guys. I just love it. This has got a great ring to it.
Is that anything like Matt Aludra's canon? I like puns. I said it, all right?
I have headcanon that I can not be convinced otherwise, but it's a little off topic to bring up.
I really can't picture someone. I can't hear someone say headcanon without picturing them with a little like barrel coming out of their forehead with a fuse coming off the top so they can fire like ballistic. I
say it all the time.
Cannonballs.
What's one good example of one of your headcanon?
So, Moraine leaves the group in chapter 12, right? And the next time we see her is chapter 22. And she has this conversation with Lan where she tells him about passing his bond. And this is really important because this is like a huge thing that is carried on over multiple books. And she's really upset, understandably. And she says, before we left Tarvalon, I made arrangements to pass your bond to Morel in the event of my death. And they have this conversation where she's telling him in not so many words that she's doing that and that his bond will be passed to someone like Nynaeve. I'm sure y'all will talk about the language, but she just says a bunch of stuff like, I'm sure someone will be in need of you. Anyway, whatever. So, many, many books later, Egwene confronts Morel when she finds out about this bond thing. And Morel's like, it's just, I'm supposed to pass his bond to Nynaeve. That's what Moraine told me. And so, to me, I don't think she did this until after they went to the 2 rivers, found Rand, he met Nynaeve. Moraine is like, okay, if I die now, Lan, there's enough people to carry on the mission. Like, Lan needs to be alive. He needs to be with Nynaeve to help Rand, whatever. But she says...
The only Yeah, the only issue is she said she did that before they left the White Tower.
Right. But it doesn't make sense to me because why would she do that before they found Rand? And how did she tell Morel to pass the bond to Nynaeve? Because it seems like something that's way too important to like put in a letter. It just doesn't seem like that would make sense.
I think it's entirely possible she went and talked to Morel about Nynaeve at this point.
Probably after.
But I think she had arranged for the bond to be passed before. I think she was thinking like, hey, I know we're probably going to run into the Dragon Reborn on this trip. Because, she sends that message to Suan that she's entering the Two Rivers, and Suan knows that the Dragon Reborn is there. So she must have set out for the Two Rivers knowing she was going to find the Dragon Reborn. So I think at that point she would have transferred. She did that. And then at this point, after Lan has fallen in love with Nynaeve, she goes back to Morel, and tells her, Morel.
I'm not really sure.
And tells her about Nynaeve and that she should transfer the bond to Nynaeve when she gets the chance.
I just can't think of when she meets up with her.
We don't really know what she's doing for the next 10. We see her doing some research, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so.
Yeah, I'm there with you. My only issue is she says, I did that before we left the tower, and that's a pretty blatant statement, and, 3 oaths and all that.
Right.
That's a tough one to get around.
No, it's something I haven't put much thought into. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, I haven't either. I'll have to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always knew that Moraine disappeared for a while here during these books, but I was never entirely sure what it was. I thought she was I know she did a little bit of that research, but I wasn't entirely sure what
I think that's
else
all
she was doing. Yeah.
I think she's trying to gather information about the Forsaken and anything, like the Kara Ethan cycle.
Corinthian?
I always, in my head, I call it Carathian, but I know that's not right.
I hear said
Isn't that Game of
Carathon.
Thrones? Corinthian?
Are you thinking of Baratheon?
Isn't that the Bible?
Yeah, Corinthians Bible.
Anyway, so that's a headcanon that I don't know.
I like another term for headcanon, ballistic factoids.
Credit to a radio. I'm downloading The Twilight Zone on your Wi-Fi right now.
Okay.
Just so you know.
You might want to do that after we record, because we're streaming and everything.
Silence.
Yeah, that's why I said something and just making sure.
You can kick it back on after we're done, when we go to the bar.
Yeah.
And then we'll come down.
I wanted to rewatch all those old ones. I was talking about them with a couple of my coworkers, the 60s Twilight
so
Zones.
good.
Yeah, I haven't watched those in a long time.
I haven't watched them in a long time, and they still haunt me is the wrong word, but I still think about them.
They are kind of haunting. That's what makes them good.
It's the Black Mirror of its day.
Yeah. I think that's how we got into talking about it, because the new season of Black Mirror came out, which I still haven't watched, because I realized I never watched season 3 either. So
you're catching up on season 3?
So, of course, I started season 1, episode 1, and I've been watching all the way through. I watched part of season 3. Last night I watched the one about they copy you, like your personality. I don't know if you've seen this
White
one.
Christmas?
Yes.
That's probably the best episode.
Whoa.
It's so
dark.
so good. I'm about halfway through season 4. I loved Hang the DJ. Loved it.
Season 4? I haven't watched season 4 yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
The other episodes, I didn't really like them.
Really? It was just the one?
Well, I haven't seen them all. I think I have 1 or 2 left. They just weren't quite like... So the episode that Patrick is talking about, White Christmas, it set the bar pretty high. And so they just weren't as insightful.
It just got really dark. Well, right off the bat, when he's talking about how his job is to torture artificial intelligence into submission.
Yeah.
Right.
That part, I was like, oh my God, this is fucked up. And it makes you think, like, is it torture? If it's software, if it's intelligent software, it's not a thing. It's,
well, what if you can't tell if your software are real?
that's what it is. Like, the artificial intelligence doesn't know that it's not real.
Yeah, Black Mirror, they take some sci-fi concepts to
It's
really
interesting.
disturbing places.
Yeah, and disturbing. Yeah.
There's an interesting... The first episode, season 4, I think you'll like. It has kind of a Star Trek-esque overlay to it that
I saw the thumbnail, and it's really obviously a Star Trek kind of.
Yeah, but it's unique, and it takes that technology aspect and twists it, and there's a couple plot holes in it that,
You could fly a spaceship through?
Yeah, but it's not the point of the episode, so it's...
Right. Black Mirror, I have to be in the right mood or else I just get like way too much anxiety about it. Because I'm like, oh my God, this is way too possible.
Also in White Christmas, they reference like almost every other episode. That made me wonder, is Black Mirror all supposed to happen in one universe?
Yeah.
Like on one planet?
Yeah, so
it's all happening.
It's all I think it's supposed to be on Earth, but the technology is carried on throughout the episodes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
with the blocking, so you can't see or talk to the person in real life.
And also,
and they have the same little, like it looks like a tiny iPod, and to control the mind computer.
Yeah. So they kind of rehash that in a different way in one of the episodes in season 4, and then they kind of play on the avatar aspect, the cookie of a personality kind of thing.
Yeah, it seems like it could all be happening in the same world, maybe at different times.
Yeah.
Like the bicycle one, I don't know how that plays in.
That seems like a far future, maybe.
I can't remember that one.
Or people live in this world and like poor people make electricity, or I don't know.
Like you said with the spaceship one, plot holes aren't the point of the series.
Yeah.
That, like it could all be the same universe, but if it's not, that's okay too. Or if there's things that are different between the individual episodes, that's not the point. The point is to show a future where this is possible and make you think that, really from where you are currently, how hard would it be to get to that point?
Like the Waldo episode was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was definitely interesting. It wasn't as dark as a lot of the others.
And there's been 1 or 2 I know that were like fairly uplifting.
Yeah.
So Hang the DJ,
at least in some aspects,
in season 4 is very uplifting. It's more lighthearted.
So it's like they need like a tier system for Black Mirror. They like a rating system from like, we'll make you vaguely optimistic to we'll make you despair for humanity's future.
I know.
And all futures.
Like, do I want to watch this one today?
Do I feel like giving up on all hope for humanity? Yeah, I think I want to watch some Black Mirror.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?